What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast interview where every single week I interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate professionals, and straight top badasses out there dominating their spaces. People choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves and their families. And today, guys, got another badass, epic guest on the show. So our guest today, guys, is known as the godfather of real estate wholesaling. So today he owns and operates an empire, essentially, of a massive team of over 30 employees that are doing over 80 wholesales each and every month. They're in multiple states and looking to expand and are expanding really, really fast, just doing some huge, huge things. So really stoked and honored to have Jamil Damji on the show. My friend.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Appreciate you guys all tuning in.
Yeah, man, this is gonna be a lot of fun, dude. So, before we get into all the stuff that you're doing today, I'm always intrigued in our guest journeys that led them to entrepreneurship and into real estate in the first place. If we run the clocks, man, like how the hell did all this begin in the first place?
Funny story, honestly. So let's get back to 2002, almost 2003, but 2002, the end of 2002. And I'm working in a company, actually, and I'm part owner of this company where we build websites. Okay, we build and sell websites. Back in the day when nobody had a website, nobody really even understood what a website was. Like, the Yellow Pages still dominated the advertising space for small business. And the company that I owned, what we do is we would call businesses from the phone book and ask them if they wanted to buy a $600 website that would ultimately cost us $700 to make. We were just rookies at what we were doing, right? And anyways, my business partner at the time in that space, his father was a real estate developer who was building these inner city duplexes and crushing it. I overheard them talking, and they were making around $150,000 to $160,000 per project. And, my business partner was involved with his father, so he was super happy and stoked. Life was great for him. I was barely scraping by, making a couple $100 a week. And so I asked my partner, I overheard your dad talking about, not having enough of these building lots that he's looking for to do these duplexes on. Tell me what that's about. And he's like, well, they got to be in these specific neighborhoods, within 5 miles of downtown. They've got to be on 50 by minimum 120-foot lots. And they got to be zoned R2. And my dad will pay $400,000 for them if you can find one. And so I'm like, cool, man, thanks. And my head, I've never been in real estate at the time. I don't understand contracts. I've never seen a real estate contract. So this is brand new to me. The next morning, I'm walking my dog, and I'm actually renting a house in a neighborhood where these houses that they're looking for are residing, right? That's where these houses all are. And I'm walking by a for rent by owner that I actually tried to rent because when I was moving into the neighborhood, that was one of the houses I looked at, and she wanted a little bit too much money for my budget, and I didn't take it. But this house was still for rent, and it had been like a month and a half. And so, I kind of disguised my voice a little bit, and I called from another number, and I just asked if this lady, since she's been unable to rent the house, would be interested in selling it. And she said, yeah. And then I asked her how much she would want for the house. And she said, not a dollar less than $350,000. And so I was presented with this beautiful problem of how was I going to make the $50,000 between what I could sell this property for and what I could buy it for. And that's why I falsely believe I invented wholesaling. It had been happening way before then. People were doing it in the United States all the time. This is in Canada, by the way, that I did this. And so I got a hold of a real estate attorney, and I told him my problem, and he gave me the tools. He essentially told me exactly what I needed to do to get that transaction done. And I did it. And I made $50,000 on my first deal.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah,
it's the weirdest thing, man.
Yeah, man, it's so amazing how, sometimes we're going through these struggles and these hard times, and like, because if you got like a cush job doing website development, like this would have never happened, right? It was pain comes in it's that pain that springboards us, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. That and the fact that I just never, I never saw myself in my mind's eye doing what I was doing. You know, if you're out there right now and you're listening to this show and you're staring at a computer doing a job that you hate, and if that wasn't the picture of your life that you had for yourself, walk up and walk out.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it, dude. So then what happened next, man? So you popped the deal. Do you just keep going and finding more deals, or did that kind of just click where like, man, who else could I do this for?
So I stayed where I understood for a little while. And I continued finding these lots, and then I went and sourced more builders. Found it was a problem for every builder in the area, and so I just basically went down the yellow pages and found all these different boutique builders. And got a hold of all of them, and essentially, as soon as I could get my hands on a house, I had it sold. And so I did that for about a year. And then I had bigger eyes and I moved into apartment buildings. And I realized that these developers were taking these old apartment buildings and they were subdividing the titles inside. They were doing what's called a strata title, and turning these apartments into condominiums. And I did the exact same thing. I would go and lock up these apartment buildings and I'd flip them to developers who would then go in and turn these into condos. And I could pop $100,000 off a deal with my eyes closed.
Yeah. And it just evolved from there, huh?
And it just went from there. And then I got to be honest, I lost everything in 2007. So I went gangbusters in that space. My sister and I, we made millions flipping buildings, we actually got involved in condo conversions, which was our undoing in the end. We had about $12 million of our own cash in. And I had asked my father to co-sign on some construction loans. And 6 months later, we were $1.8 million upside down. And all the cash we had put in was gone. And my parents and I were all homeless. And we went from living like, we were on top of the world to a 900 square foot apartment where, me, my mom, my dad, my sister, and the cat and the dog were all cramped into a 2-bedroom, just trying to survive.
Yeah. What did you, at that point, right? Because a lot of times when you get burned doing something, it's like, you're not going to go back to that thing. It's like, all right, I touched the fire. I'm not going to touch the fire again. Right. Did you find yourself when you lost everything kind of veering back to more of the corporate space, or did you have the confidence that you could figure it out and keep going down this path and just keep in the real estate space?
I love that question, man, because I know you've talked to a lot of people that have been through it, or you've been through it and know, otherwise you wouldn't have asked that. I actually went and did stand-up comedy. I packed up, I moved to Los Angeles, and I went and did open mics, and then I actually did all right. I started working in comedy for a few years, and I actually did that until 2012. So from 2008 to 2012, I was a comedian. And after that, I got sucked back into real estate in 2012, and I haven't left.
So how that, was that just like something on your bucket list that you wanted to try? Because you go from building websites to flipping all these huge real estate deals to stand-up comedy.
I don't know. I think that I always had I was always intrigued by what made people laugh.
Yeah.
And I always loved laughing, and I still love laughing. It's just the best thing in the world to do. Right. And so I think because I felt so bad, and I felt so bad for what was happening to my family, and I didn't know how to transmute that into something else other than taking that pain and making it fun. And by doing that, by exposing it for the situation that it was, being that life was marinating itself, right? You have to break everything down before you can build something back up again. And I was in a period of breakdown. I was in a spot where my family and we all needed to rebond. I was really young when I made all that money the first time. So I'm in my mid-20s at the time, and I bought really terrible things with it. I lived a very fast lifestyle. I wasn't good to my body. I was really good to my family and friends, but I was terrible to myself. And when everything burnt down, the only people that were there was my unhealthy self and my family, and everybody else had disappeared. And I needed that time to contract and just enjoy the company of my two parents and my sister and just refigure myself out. And I found great joy in making jokes about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure too, it's, it's an escape of some sorts as well, right? To get there in a different environment and be in that moment. And then, so you're doing that. And it's, I mean, for you to stay in that space for 4 years, it sounds like it had to be going pretty damn good.
Yeah. I was doing all right.
So then 2012 hits you, like what transpired you to jump back in?
So I'm doing videos at Funny or Die. I don't know if you know the website or not. It's a Will Ferrell site. They do little fun comedy sketches on it. It was good stuff. So I'm there doing some stuff, and I'm looking at my cost of living in LA, and it was just outrageous, right? Living in a 1-bedroom loft, kind of in something decent, was costing like $5,000. And what I was noticing in Phoenix was you could buy these condominiums that were newly built right before the recession, and I could buy them for like $25,000, and they were renting for $800 a month. And so my thoughts were I would work in LA, and so every time I'd make some money on a video or do something that I'd get a big chunk of cash. Rather than going and spending it, I was turning around, coming to Phoenix, buying a condo, going back to LA, and then just grinding it out to make some more money. I got to a point where I had put enough of these under contract in Phoenix as just, a way to arbitrage my rent in LA. And 2 of them I didn't actually decide I wanted to take down. And I had already been in the space prior because I had the experience back in Canada that I could flip a contract. And so I thought, maybe I can do that here. And so I go on Craigslist and I post the 2 properties that I had under contract at $10,000 higher than my contract price for each. And I kid you not, man, 15 minutes later, I get a call from a guy by the name of Tim Wynn from Phoenix, Arizona. And he says, hey, I took a look at these 2 properties and I'll take them both. And so I'm like, well, I just made $20,000 in like 18 minutes work. And the guy was super cool and really friendly on the phone. And, I was asking him the process because I hadn't been involved with title companies and I didn't know how it was going to play out for me to get my money from him or the deal. And I asked him and he said, well, typically title will cut you your proceeds. So that'll happen at close of escrow. But why don't you do this? Why don't you come out here and hang out with me for a week and see what I'm doing? Because this is what I do full time. You seem to have an understanding of property. You tell me you're a comedian, but if you got some time, come hang out with me for a week and let me show you what I'm doing. And my life was pretty loose, and so I was just like, okay. I got in a car and I drove out and I hung out with the dude for a week, and he showed me everything he was up to. And I watched this guy like make $80,000 in a week, just selling contracts. And so I was engaged at the time. And I called who's now my wife. I called her up and I said, I think I'm done in LA. I think I'm being called back to do what I was originally doing. I think my life is supposed to be in real estate. I'm not that funny. So I'm going to go. I'm going to pack up and I'm going to go to Phoenix and I'm going to take this guy up on his offer to go work with him. And I'm going to just do it. And I packed up. It was 12/12/12, my birthday. And I was driving a U-Haul down the 10 going east. I was really scared, man, but I did it. I did it. And it changed my life.
That's awesome, dude. It's one of those things where when opportunities present themselves, you gotta have the balls to take action. You did it, man. So I commend you for that. That's awesome, man. So are you still in Phoenix now?
I am. I love this city so much.
Yeah, I didn't know we were in the same backyard here.
Okay. What part of town are you in?
So I'm actually in my Surprise office right now, but my real estate, because Phoenix Metro's 100 some miles across. So we have I got a building out here in Surprise because we really work the outskirts. Yeah. Right. So, the Surprise, Avondale, Goodyear, and then like Chandler, Mesa. So we have an office then in Chandler, one in Tempe, and then one North Scottsdale.
Awesome. Next time you're in Tempe, we're having lunch.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude.
All right.
We'll make it happen. That's awesome, dude. Small world, man. So, All right, so then, you kind of walk us through then, because you went from working for this guy where then now
Yep.
I don't know if you became partners with them or if you branched off at some point, and what kind of led you to where you are today?
So we were in a partnership. He understood that I was a go-getter. I knew my way around a contract. I understood. I kind of just was getting the lay of the land from him. And the beauty of Tim, he's been a person that has just magically popped in and out of my life at the most opportune times. He's like you ever watch those movies and there's that janitor who's also like God, and yeah, he's not a janitor, but so I don't want to make that, but like that's who he is to me. He's just always just seems to be coming by me like, hey, Jamil, I'm here to help your life. So he wasn't the kind of person that tried to control my situation. I came to town. He taught me. We were partners for a good period of time. And then, I got on my feet. Things started going. And he was like, go out on your own, man, and make it happen. And so I worked as a solopreneur. I call it solopreneur, but it was just really my sister and I. We were hustling houses, just, flipping contracts, doing that. And that was steady from, I'd say 2013 to end of 2015. And end of 2015, I meet Josiah and Hunter, my two business partners at Keyglee. And these guys, I mean, they really just blew my mind because I'm of a different generation than them. Right now, Hunter is 22 years old. Josiah is 25 years old. At the time, I think Hunter was 18 and Josiah was 21. And so, there's these two kids, right, that I'm supposed to now respect and and listen to. And I had old school thinking, right? So it took me some time to really appreciate what these two guys were doing. And then I realized, man, these guys are smarter than me. Like these guys really, really know their stuff. And so I would find a house and I would take it to them and they would sell it for me in minutes. And I thought, okay, if I can just find more houses, we could have a really good thing here. And we operated loosely for, I'd say, about 6 months in 2015. And then come 2016, we decided, hey, we work really well together. They essentially took everything that was in my mind, like all of the ways that I was lead generating. They took everything that I would just naturally do and they systemized it. And by systemizing it, they were able to scale it. And so they took those automations and those systems, and we built Keyglee and essentially hired people, trained them on systemizing my basic day-to-day life and their day-to-day lives, and just kept building and adding people and building and adding people. And today we've got 44 employees. We will typically do, 75 to 85 houses a month. And it's just like the most vibrant, high energy, loving place I've ever been in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing, dude. So then, for those, for those that are watching and listening, man, can you kind of break down just because our listener base, everybody's watching and listening for the most part is in real estate, right? But a lot of real estate agents and, most real estate agents they want to work with a lot of investors because it's multi-transactions, and I think most real estate agents' dream is to become their own client down the road, right? But most are working with your traditional buyers and sellers, and they don't have a lot of always, I guess, knowledge or expertise in this. So can you just kind of just break down like what is a wholesale, right? And just break down the overall process.
So yeah, a wholesale transaction is essentially where we identify a property that has some pain, a property or a situation with pain, right? Distress is always a part of the equation. And by distress, I don't mean like desperation. I just mean distress. You look at a property where two sellers have been in it for years. and they haven't been able to do any deferred maintenance. They haven't been able to keep up with the house at all. So it's not financeable. This is a house that a bank would never put a loan on. So what ends up happening is that seller still needs a buyer, right? And if they can't traditionally go on the MLS and sell their house to a conventional buyer, they typically then turn to the cash buyers, right? So essentially what a wholesale deal is when we come in, we offer a cash price. It's usually, as much as we can possibly pay for the current condition of the house. A lot of times real estate agents think we're just, buying people's homes at these absurdly discounted prices, and it's not true. We buy houses that are in complete disarray, that need thousands, 50, 60 grand to become livable. We contract those, and then we sell our position in the contract to an end user who will then go in, flip the property, improve the property, and flip it on the retail market. So we're the middleman. We make a small fee in the middle. Essentially, the guys that are out there fixing and flipping houses all day long don't have the time to go out and find inventory because they're in the business flipping houses. So we have become the conduit to that, and we actually basically supply them all their inventory.
Now you have to, because you're locking up the property, getting it under a contract, and you're essentially selling a piece of paper to them with the property. I mean, what kind of finances are involved with that? I mean, because some might think that, hey, man, I got to buy this property, take it down, I don't have money, and then like they think that maybe flipping it to the actual investor. What does that look like? I mean, is this something does it require any money?
You can get a wholesale transaction done in as little as $100. So typically earnest money, like the bare minimum that I've ever seen on a contract is $100 here in Arizona. So that's all you need. If you find yourself in a situation and you have a seller that has a property that fits that bill, the finances involved are you put $100 down in earnest money, and then you assign that contract to an end buyer. So it's the end buyer who comes in and actually uses the funds to close. And the gap, the delta between your purchase price and your sale price is your assignment fee, and you get that at close of escrow. So you essentially can do this business with little or with very, very little money, and the returns are asymmetrical. Like a $100 earnest deposit can make you $100,000.
Yeah, love it, man. So then, just to maybe remove some limiting beliefs that some might have with this process, what happens if you can't find a buyer to sell it off to?
So we're only offering on properties that we intentionally want to buy, right? So because we're a larger outfit and we're capitalized, we close and hold it, and we eventually find a buyer. We may not make money on the deal, but we'll still close it, right? Because we made a promise to a seller that we're the real buyer for them, and we waive inspection and make earnest money hard. So that's okay. We have no problem completing the deal. But for the newbie that's in it, that may not have the ability to lose that earnest deposit or may not have the ability to close. I think, most contracts, the liability is limited to the earnest money. So the worst that can happen to you if you're unable to find a buyer is you lose your earnest deposit. But typically what wholesalers try to do is sell the contract during the inspection period. It's a rookie way to do it, but it's still doable. Yep.
Love it. So then would you say like the biggest mistake that people get themselves kind of pigeonholed in when wholesaling is not knowing how to value a property then?
100%. That's it. They're and I think that happens because in real estate school, they don't teach you that. Right. So even real estate agents are the worst compers I've ever found. And it's true, right? You in Phoenix, especially, let's just take this market. And I apologize to be inside baseball for your listeners because I'm talking Phoenix, but appraisers are the ones you got to pay attention to because they are the ones giving the parameters on how a property is going to get valued for your end buyer, right? And what I've always found is if you can stay within 200 square feet in the same subdivision within 5 years of construction, you can find your comparable. If you have to cross a major road, if you have to go a mile out, those numbers aren't gonna jive. And so I think that absolutely the number one mistake that I've ever seen wholesalers make is they're just bad buyers. They don't understand what a property will actually be worth once it's fixed up, or they don't understand how much it costs to actually fix a house. I can't tell you how many times I've had an agent or a wholesaler send me a deal, and they're like, yeah, this house just needs five grand worth of rehab. I don't know if you've done a renovation project at all recently, but 5 grand gets you nothing. And then you go and walk into this house and it's got an old kitchen, linoleum floor, grandma's bathroom in both bathrooms. The roof has some peeling and the AC is non-existent. And they tell you that's a $5,000 rehab. So it's just understanding your numbers, I think, is key. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, love it, dude. So then the next question is like, let's just say somebody has understanding on the valuations, understanding on the construction costs, the after repair value, all of that. Then from there, it's a thing of, well, how do you find the deals?
Okay.
Right?
So yeah, that's also easy too. There's a lot of people out there that want to sell their house and or thinking about selling their house. So we do outreach, we do some text messaging, we do some calling. Email and text has been working. And again, guys, make sure you're using a compliant software if you're going to do texting. You reach out to me personally on Instagram at Damji if you want more details about that, and I'll steer you the right way. Yeah, we do a lot of texting. We do a lot of email marketing. And essentially, we're intentional on our lists, right? So I'll give you an example of how we'll niche build. So we know that, say, people over the age of 65 tend to be a demographic that moves because of life events, right? People, spouses pass away, they move into assisted living, they move in with children, they downsize to multifamily, or they go to, some other type of living situation. And the event of selling your house is more prevalent in that age group. Great. But now if you go to a list provider and you say, give me a list of all the people over 65 in Maricopa, you're going to have a list of like 1 million people, right? It's going to be huge. That's not a really efficient way to market. So what we do then is we'll say, okay, let's filter that down and be more intentional and think, well, what about a house would make somebody over 65 not want to live there? Okay, well, 2-story houses might be an issue. Stairs might be a problem for somebody in that age group, right? So now let's search for people that are over 65 who live in a 2-story. Great. Now let's further refine that and think, what's something in the house that people in that age group may not need? Well, it's very likely that their children have all left. So if they're living in a 2-story house with 4 or 5 bedrooms, there's a very high likelihood that that's going to be a person ready to sell that house, right? So we get really ultra intentional on who we're targeting and how we target them, so that we know the sellable moment is coming, right? And it's just, are we gonna catch them at the right time? And so that's how we do it. We just pay really close attention to deconstructing seller motivation. And once we have our finger on what that looks like, we get at it.
Yeah, love it, dude. And then, to get that laser targeted, I mean, there are special tools. I know for real estate agents, there's tools out there now like Remine, and that can allow you to get really granular like that. But what kind of tools are needed to really get that laser focused?
Not much, to be honest. I think if you have a good list provider, we can help you guys. We can help any of your listeners on that, or go to ListSource. That's one that a lot of folks out there in the United States like to use. ListSource is great. Find a title company. Title companies, they're the greatest for lists because they want to give them to you, right? They pay these hefty subscription fees to these list companies. And if you call a title company and just say, look, I'm a real estate investor and I'm going to do some marketing, and I'll bring all my escrows to your office. Can you give me a list of 10,000 people in my county over 65 who live in a 2-story that live in a house that has also 4 or 5 bedrooms? They'll send you that list. You get that list, you go to a skip tracing company. I'll give you one right now that I know of, Skip Vault, SKIPVAULT.com, skipvault.com. they'll skip trace an address for you for 15 cents a record on one-offs too. So you get that data, you sit down in front of your computer, and you get to it. Start sending messages.
Yeah. So what is, for those that aren't familiar with that term, what's a skip trace?
A skip trace is finding an individual's cell phone number or phone number based off of their name or address.
Okay. And are they, it's like, is there a percentage of them that you get numbers for and percent that you don't?
We actually have, we get around a hit rate of 80, 85%. But the skip tracing company only charges us for records found.
Okay. That's pretty insane, man.
Yeah. It's great. We just did a campaign. It was crazy here in Maricopa County where we were really intentional with our list. We returned 400 names. We skip traced them. We got a hold of 52 people. I think the skip trace cost us like $60. We bought 3 houses. We made 10 grand on each house. It took us a day and a half. So we had a $30,000 return on a $60 investment for a few hours worth of work.
Yeah. And what I love, dude, about, the kind of wholesaling process is, most think of, I want to get into flipping homes. Yeah. Right. But then you got all the whole costs. You're managing construction crews. You're taking on a lot of risk. HGTV makes it look all sexy, but it's not that sexy, right?
You can lose your life on one bad flip.
Yeah.
You can. And really wholesaling is risk-free because you can cancel out. Like the worst that's going to happen is you're going to lose your earnest money.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yep. So you eliminate the risk. You allow speed to it because somebody might be like, okay, hey, well, you guys are so, you're well funded now. You've got all this down. Like, why not just flip them on your own? Because they're seeing the big payday of the flip, right? Right? When you get asked that question, because I'm sure you probably get asked that question a lot. Like,
all the time.
What's your response to that?
I don't have the bandwidth for that brain damage. That's the real response. Right? I get asked that question all the time because investors are like, well, why aren't you going to do it? If it's so good, why aren't you doing it? I did. I have flipped houses before. I hate it. I hate the stress. I hate how it makes me and my wife fight. I don't like, contractors not doing things on time. I'm not really interested in design. And I hate the fact that the color I paint my house might affect whether or not I'm going to make money on a deal. Like, these are all things that to me make no sense. Why would I put the destiny of my profitability in the hands of whether somebody likes this kitchen?
Yeah.
Where I know that the numbers on a wholesale deal don't lie.
Yeah. Well, and then you got the capacity, right? Not just the mental bandwidth, but also the, it's like in the time that you might be able to wholesale out 70, 80 deals,
for sure.
Right? You can maybe only flip 10 of those homes, right? And so the game of speed. So then from there, you made a comment earlier of, most of these homes that you take down, like you already have a buyer for. So I'm guessing then the other component to it is collecting and creating a list of who like the legit professional investors are that, can perform on these deals.
Correct. And we've gotten very creative with that, right? So that's always a trick for people. So where wholesalers will fail is they'll get into the business, they'll start tying houses up, and they won't be able to find a buyer because they've been fed the bag of goods that if you find a deal and it's a deal, it'll sell. It's not true. You can be. I've seen so many wholesalers sit on amazing deals and be unable to sell them because they have no real list, right? So what we do is we actually have an entire department. It's the largest department in our office. See what I just said? The largest department in our office is the department that builds the lists, right? So there's 12 dudes in a room with like crazy metal music playing all day long that are just sitting there having conversations with cash buyers. And we're finding these guys by being creative. We're getting on Facebook and we're creating profiles that like Lamborghini, Rolex, medical equipment, and certain hospitals, and seeing what which people are showing up in mutual likes. So if a person likes Rolex, Ferrari, medical equipment, there's very likely a doctor. We check his profile. We look at his pictures. If it's public, we can see who this person is. Now we know this person's a surgeon. We reach out. Are you interested in investment real estate? If we could find you a property that had 30% equity in it in your local market, would you like to speak to us further? Yes or no. If they don't respond, they don't respond, but most of them do. And they say yes. And so then we send them to opt into our list. They opt into our list, so we have that recorded. And then a representative will give them a call the next business day, introduce themselves, ask them where they would prefer to be purchasing these types of properties, if they've ever done it before. And you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many firemen flip houses on the side. You'd be surprised how many doctors, surgeons, and attorneys and accountants flip houses on the side. They all do it. They love to do it. It's a sexy thing to do. And so we've been really lucky because we're hyper-focused on stepping outside the box rather than just going to tax records and looking at closed transactions and cash. We're finding more, we're finding new buyers and more opportunities outside of the regular old, bowls that we're all looking in.
That's awesome, man. It is crazy to think about, though. Like your structure of your organization is backwards of most, right? Seems like most are weighted towards finding the deals.
Acquisitions, yeah.
Yeah, where yours is most weighted to finding the buyers. Because if you don't have that piece of the puzzle, man, you're SOL, right?
Yep. And that's actually turned us into a big distributor. We call it a disposition house. Almost every wholesaler in Phoenix has used us to sell their deals.
Yeah.
So we're not only out there finding our own, half of the deals we do every month are coming from other people.
Yeah. And then how do you, for those that are doing that, like, if you're, because it's like I've heard stories from investors that I know that are like, we sold this property to 4 different people in 10 minutes.
Right.
Everybody gets paid. Yeah. Right. So like if I'm wanting to get into this business and whatever, be like, well, how do I go find, you guys deals and like create it for a win for everybody?
So I'll run you down a quick way for a listener that's interested in how they can make $10,000 right now. So go to our website, KeygleeInvestments.com or KeygleeHomes.com. What you're going to find there is our inventory. You take that inventory, you get a good look at what that looks like, and you pick a couple of houses that are interesting to you. You take the neighborhoods that those houses are in, and you create an ad on Craigslist. You go to Craigslist and you say, I've got 3 fix and flip opportunities in this neighborhood, and this neighborhood. If you're interested in learning more, give me a call. When your phone rings, because it will, you send them our deal. You send them our deal. I'm giving you permission to do it. You send them our deal. You tack on $5 or $10 grand to the price. And if they're interested, call the number on our website. I'll help put it together and I'll get you your check.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So then, if you're sending them your deal, what prohibits them from being able to go see that we just marked it up 5 or 10 grand?
Well, it's very unlikely that if they're working with a buyer that they know or somebody from Craigslist, it's unlikely that we're already working with them. And if we are, then we are, right? So if that individual says, hey, oh, you know what? I saw that deal on Keyglee's website and it was cheaper. I'll just buy it from them. Then cool. That's just somebody not for you, right? That's somebody that we're already working with. But we add 4,000 buyers a month. We add 4,000 new buyers to our list a month. So there's no way that every person that's going to call these guys are going to be the same, are going to be people we're working with. There's just too many people out there.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of it, on the sell side, like one thing that these companies like Open Door, all these iBuyers have shown, at least the real estate community, is the consumer wants options. Yeah, right. And it's not like you kind of mentioned earlier. I mean, people have a lot of different reasons for that, why they want to sell. And then not everybody, some people, it's like, hey, I'd rather not have it on the market for the convenience and take less money for whatever that reason may be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. So many different variations. And what I love about stuff like this is I'm always looking for ways to leverage. Right. Yeah, right. So I can leverage your services to all these homes in the geographic farm areas that I work, right, and just offer it as another option, and eliminate the risk.
So we've got tons of realtors out there that, and in fact, what they're doing is the way that they're competing with the iBuyer is becoming the iBuyer, right? And so if you walk into a situation as a realtor and you see a house that's it's a hoarder house, okay? You're an agent, you walk into a hoarder house, your first gut feeling is to turn around and walk out because you think there's no way I'm going to sell this house. There's no way I'm going to clean this garbage. This place is terrible. I'm not interested, right? Nope. What you do is you say, look, Mr. Seller, I'd love to talk to you about your house. Let's go to a coffee shop where it's clean and we can chat about the options, right? So you sit down and you say, I have a couple of options for you. I can buy this house as a cash buyer, and I'm going to take my realtor hat off and I'm going to put my investor hat on right now. And I'm going to offer you the most that I can pay for your house in the condition that it's in. The other option is we clean up the house and you do $20,000 or $30,000 in cosmetic fix-ups, and we get you X for the property. Or we clean the house, we go all out on the remodel, and I'll try to get you X on the property. The facts are, most of the times when these guys are in the situations they're in and the houses look that way, they don't have the money to fix the house, right? These guys they're in a situation where they just want a no-nonsense deal. Also, hoarder properties or inherited properties, a lot of the times people aren't interested in the public seeing how they've lived, right? I bought a house just this morning. This is the craziest story. When I came to Phoenix, the first house I ever bought in Phoenix, that lady who sold me that house, it's great. I feel so weird to do this, but like I want to show it to you because it's a story on my Instagram. But this lady right here, her name is Diane, and that says the first house I ever bought in Phoenix, Arizona. She called me back today to sell me another house.
Yep.
Right. And it was a hoarder house. It was her Uncle Dan, terrible situation. Like, he's in assisted living right now. His kid just wants to get a cash offer and move on with life. She remembered me. She called me up and said, please, I don't want to work with anybody from your team. I want to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. I'd love for you to come and take me out for coffee and buy our house. And so I did that, right? And so what I was saying to your realtor listeners is they can put that iBuyer hat on. They can actually go and offer that solution to a buyer, to a seller, and say, I can buy your house and save you all of this hassle that you'd have to go through to fix this property. Or rather than going to Open Door or OfferPad, which in my opinion, if you've ever seen what an Open Door or an OfferPad house looks like once they've done the work on it, they're not beautifying communities by any means, right? And so if you really care about the community and you want to see a family that does fixing and flipping for a business, that they're going to put their heart and soul in the property to bring value to the community, we're the best option.
Yeah.
We're the best option.
Love it, man. So here in Phoenix, where you guys are at, or your home base, if you will, I mean, so what's the fastest growing metro in the United States right now? There's, over 1 million rooftops. It's just exploding, right? But you then have now expanded to, other areas where you do this. What point led to that expansion?
Well, it started off with just seeing if we could, right? Because we noticed that we were doing most of our transactions without ever having to actually physically view the house. So we thought, okay, well, since we're not seeing 95% of the homes that we're buying and selling, why can't we do this in Tampa or Orlando? And so what we did is we did a study to see which markets most mimicked ours, because we knew we would understand how it would work. And the first market was Orlando. So we went to Orlando. We set up shop. We have one person who's on the ground that opens doors for us and takes photos. But that's it. And we started our campaigns. We started our marketing campaigns, text and email, and getting a hold of individuals that are doing deals out there and working with them, helping them sell their deals. And within 3 months, we had already done 20 transactions. And now we're typically doing on average anywhere between 10 and 15 deals a month in Orlando, and then also in Tampa, and then we're also in Atlanta, Georgia. That's been a big one for us. And Houston, Texas is also a great market for us as well.
Yeah. So do you guys have like an expansion plan, like as far as, for those like that are watching and listening that might, we have agents all over the world, but mainly here in the United States, they're like, man, I wonder if they're coming to our market, right? What's the expansion plan look like? Do you have a kind of a list of order?
So we're in 8 right now. We're in 8 markets right now. The goal is to be in 19 by the end of 2020. And so what I'll do is I'll make available that list because I don't know the cities offhand, but I'll make available that list. If you'd like, I can give it to you. And if you want to post it in a link, you can do that. And also I'll have it on my social media if anybody's interested in seeing. And they can essentially, if you want to do this virtually, you can just follow us into the markets that we're in and leverage our distribution, leverage our dispositions, and you can lock up deals and we'll sell them for you all day and you can turn it into a business.
Yeah. Is that essentially like your because a lot of real estate agents, the question I get 5 times a week, dude, is how do I meet investors and how do I offer value to them? So if a real estate agent, like how does a real estate agent become of the biggest value to you where you want an ongoing long-term relationship with them?
Where they understand, I think limiting beliefs are always the thing that keeps an agent from working with an investor, right? So you find that some realtors will think, oh, agents are such a pain in the butt. They want to buy everything for almost nothing. If I could buy a house as cheap as these investors want to buy it, I would just buy it myself. I'm sure you've heard a lot of that chatter as well, right? And so I think that originally, if the realtor is saying, I want to add value to an investor, the best way that you can do that is to meet with that investor, whoever they are, whether that's us or another group, and just sit down and ask them what type of properties they're looking to purchase. Then get super intentional with your marketing. Reach out to us and we'll help you. I mean, I'm happy to help anybody, find targeted lists and whatnot, and get super intentional and go door knock or send text messages or make some phone calls and find those deals for those buyers. Also, if you don't have that much work ethic, and you kind of want to see what this looks like, to do quickly. If you want to meet investors, like if you want to meet the heavy hitter buyers in your town, go to Google and write cash buyer and then whatever city you're in. Cash buyer Los Angeles, cash buyer Phoenix, cash buyer Albuquerque, and a list at all those companies that pop up on Google. Guess who they are? Those are guys that are spending $100,000 a month in pay-per-click marketing. They're hungry to know you. They want to do business with you. They want your crappy listing. They want your terrible deal. They want it. Call those guys. Make relationships with them. We'll be on one of those searches. But I'm telling you to do this to my competitors. Go help them. Go just call down Google. It works.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, there's no shortage, right? The reason that you're okay with
sharing.
I call my competitors and sharing is.
Yes. I don't care. Yeah. Look, so one of my bigger competitors here in town, he's my best friend. I love him. I'm his kid's godfather, right? And so, but like we're constantly competing all the time, right? Like he'll be chasing a deal, I'll be chasing a deal, he'll get it or I'll get it, and it's like whatever. Like it doesn't matter. And for the guys out there that are working in the markets that I work in, let me give you another tip because I can promise you this one works. Not that the others don't, but this is like the fastest way to check. Go to Zillow. Go to Zillow for rent. Find for rent houses in your city and start on the 5th of the month. Don't do it before the 5th. Start on the 5th of the month. The 5th of the month means that they were unable to rent their house the month prior. So they're out. They still want to rent their house. They hadn't been able to. They're unsuccessful. scroll down the list and only call the ones that are owned by private individuals. So if they have a real estate company or an agent or a property manager, their interests aren't in helping you. So don't even bother on that call. Call down, find all the for rent by owners, call each of them and say, I just noticed your ad on Zillow for rent, but oddly enough, I'm looking to purchase a property exactly in that area. Would you be interested in selling this house? That's how I made my first 50 grand, guys.
That's how the journey started for you.
That's how it started for me, right? So go do it. Like, I mean, there's no excuse. If you are broke and you can't do anything and you are stuck today listening to this, call all the for rent by owners in Zillow. Once you have a house, Google cash buyer in your city. That's your buyer. Connect those dots, get your check.
Yeah, love it, man. So then, how important is it to stay in your lane? You know, meaning, okay, hey, we're gonna. You could easily get pulled into the flipping route, but we're gonna stay in the wholesale route. And then from there, you got, okay, hey, we're gonna just wholesale single family attached or this product, and just staying in that lane. You know, how important is it of just getting very focused on that niche and staying in it?
I think being a master at what you do is important. Look, a jack of all trades is cool, right? I think that you could do a few things really well and live a pretty decent life. But do you want to be exceptional at something? Do you want to be known for something, right? If you feel like, for me, I just love wholesale. I love doing it. I think it's so exciting and I think it's empowering. And so for me, I just wanted to be the best at this in the entire country. And so getting distracted in shiny object syndrome, I knew was going to take me away, like flipping houses or land. I actually did a land development deal, and I talked about this. We actually have a web series that's coming out very soon. It's called My Worst and My First. And it's me interviewing heavy hitters in real estate, asking them to describe their worst deal ever and their first deal ever. And the purpose of it is so that, I mean, they're alive, they're in that interview, so the worst deal didn't kill them, right? And in fact, what you'll find is those stories usually lead to lessons that created better opportunities. So the worst tends to be the best. And the first deals are amazing stories of all these young, soon to be juggernauts in their industry, titans, just fumbling through their first transaction, trying to do it like the weirdest person in the world, right? And so I think staying in your lane is important because there's no way to become a master if you don't, right? So just find your craft and then get super, super great at it, and you'll crush it.
Yeah, it's like Bruce Lee's quote of, "I don't fear the man that knows 10,000 kicks. I fear the man that's practiced one kick 10,000 times." Right, or whatever. It's lots of power to it, man. So, Jamil, where's the best place, dude? Because you offer a lot as far as, and you gave the websites to check out your list, KeygleeInvestments.com and then KeygleeHomes.com, which I have links to all this stuff below. But if those if our listeners want to check out your new series that's coming out, if they want to follow you on social, like where's the best places to go do that?
I think my Instagram, if you guys want to follow me, it's JDAMJI @JDamji. So @JDamji. Follow me on Instagram. I'm super active there. Send me DMs. Are you cool with me giving my email?
Yeah, as long as you're good with it.
Yeah, hit me at Jamil, Jamil, @Keyglee, KEYGLEE.com. Jamil @Keyglee.com. Guys, I'm not like some weird dude that's going to ignore you. I'm really, really approachable. I love talking to people. I love sharing. Reach out, man. I'm like one of those guys that actually answers DMs.
Yeah. That's awesome. Love it. And we'll have all that information. Wherever you're watching or listening, we'll have all of that below. So with knowing everything you know now today, right, this, I guess, comes back to kind of like the purpose of your podcast, if you will, your webisode, if you will. But, knowing everything you know now today, if Jamil today could go have a conversation with Jamil when you first started this journey and give yourself 2 pieces of advice that you feel would just really fast forward your trajectory of, this success journey that you're on, what would those 2 pieces of advice look like?
You're exactly where you're supposed to be. there's no shortcut, bro. I'll see you in 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm so thankful for all the BS I went through. Like, I really am. It was the ingredients. You never know until you look back at it to see just how magical our lives are once you become intentional about it.
Yeah. That's powerful stuff, man.
It's true.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. So, you talked about systems, right? And I'm a systems and processes freak, man. That's like my obsession, right? So, and you talked about that really being able to allow you to scale. I'm sure without those systems, you probably wouldn't have been able to enter multiple states and, go on the trajectory. I mean, like, what would you say is the importance of systems, and what has been like the biggest overall impact that having dial-in systems has allowed you guys to do?
Oh man, scalability, right? There's only so much that a group of people or like 3 people can do on their own. If you really want to grow and if you want to create something massive, systemizing it is the only way to do it. And it's not rocket science. I think a lot of folks don't realize how much of their lives can be systemized, right? Take an inventory of what all of the activities that you do in a day that produce either some value for you in life or some income for you in life, right? Take an inventory of what those activities are and do that 2 or 3 times. That'll generally tell you exactly your system, right? Once you know what your system is, see how many of those processes can actually be turned digital, can become automated. Where there's apps out there or programs out there that you can buy a la carte that will do these things for you without you having to take the time, or that'll allow you to do more of it, right? So for me, sending messages to people, seeing if there were any deals out there, that was like what I would wake up every morning and do, right? So my morning routine used to be, I'd wake up, I'd go to the gym. Once that was done, I would sit on my couch and I would just start sending text messages. And I would write one text message in the morning, and then I would copy and paste that text message to everybody who I was doing business with in my phone. What a waste of time. I could sit there for like 3 hours doing that, right? And I'd get distracted. I'd start watching, Maury on TV. Like I was being super unorganized with it, right? And so that's what Hunter and Josiah did, is they sat down with me and they're like, okay, so tell us the process. Like, what are you doing? And then I did that, and I did the inventory for them. And they're like, well, here's something that I know we can systemize. We can systemize this text messaging for you. So that can happen automatically for you in a day. So now you freed yourself up from 10 a.m. till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's figure out what you're going to do in those hours. That's different, right? And so once you take inventory of what you do in a day, figure out what can be systemized in there, systemize that or automate that, create the extra time in your day, and get done what you've always been wanting to do.
Yeah, so awesome, man. And you're so right. It is intimidating at first, right? When people like, I remember hearing, oh, we got to have your matrix, you got to have this, and then this system. And it was so overwhelming, man. And then you realize, all right, man, like this stuff can be done with back in the day for me, it was Word docs and whiteboards. But then now today with Google Drive and Trello, all these free tools that exist out there.
Yep.
Right. I mean, you can take it to the next level for sure.
100%. And it's like, I think that the people who sell the service, they make it sound harder just to confuse you, right? Just to make it sound like, oh my God, I'll never do this. But what people don't understand is making things sound complicated is what makes them not do it in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing is complicated. It's really just like the first step, and then the next step, and then the next step. I think, there's this one phrase that I was taught, and it's changed me. I'm not going to swear on your show, but I'm gonna bleep it. F how. You know, you're never going to know how. You're never going to know how it's going to happen. But you got to take the first step.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it, man. Powerful stuff. And those that are watching and listening, I know I end every podcast with this, but information without implementation is truly just a start of delusion. Information isn't power. It's taking that information and taking massive action on it that gives you the power to go out there and create the life that you know you want and deserve. And Jamil shared so many amazing pieces of advice with you guys today. Make sure that you take action on something that you learned. So again, you can go out there and create the life that you know you want and deserve. And again, below, we have all those links. Take advantage of that, man. This is an offer that you don't get much in this life, to be able to be, you know, have that mentorship and have access and get that additional information and see how you can leverage it. You know, Jamil gave so many great ways to leverage those services that they have, as well as their competitors, with some of his tips, right, to expand and grow your real estate business, which is amazing. So make sure to take advantage of that and dive into those. Jamil, man, I know you're a super busy dude. Truly means a lot that you took time in your busy day to be here. This has been a massive honor, man.
Honored to be on there as well, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it truly means a lot. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Later.